My name is Brittany Hansen. As I approach my 32nd birthday, I finally feel like I've created a place where I truly belong. This is the culmination of a dream I've spent 10 years building. A seaside cottage I purchased just a few months ago, funded by a decade of savings and the inheritance my late father left me. It's a space that is entirely mine. Since finishing graduate school, I've been working as a marketing analyst. On weekdays, I wear a suit and bury myself in numbers at an office in the city. On weekends, I escape to this cottage, surrounded by nature, and let the quiet restore me. This is the life I've envisioned for the past 10 years. It's been a month since I bought the place. The renovations are finally done. Here, I don't need anyone's opinions or interference. It's a reflection of my own sense of beauty. Today I hosted a birthday party here. I invited my brother, his wife, their baby, my mother, and a few relatives. Since my father passed, our family has slowly drifted apart. The phone calls dwindled, the get-togethers became rare, and before I knew it, even calling us family felt like a stretch. Still, I never wanted to shut them out completely. I longed for a day when we could gather again as a family. I thought maybe, just maybe, if we could share a meal and laugh together, even for a short while in this peaceful home by the sea, something might begin to shift. Of course, I prepared everything myself. The shopping, decorations, food prep, every last detail. More than the hassle, I focused on creating a pleasant time for everyone. I moved with that quiet hope that maybe, in a warm and gentle atmosphere, the awkwardness between us as a family might begin to soften. This was my way of reaching out. This cottage is my place to start over. And the birthday party was only the first step. I woke up earlier than usual. The decorations and food I had worked on late into the night still played in my head like a checklist. But the serene ocean view outside my window seemed to wash all that away in an instant. White and gold balloons I had picked out floated gently in the living room. The homemade lemon cake waited patiently in the fridge. On the kitchen counter, I arranged caprice, dips, and baguettes. Plush cushions lined the sofa. Everything was arranged with care, aiming for perfection from every angle. Not to earn praise, but because I didn't want to betray the effort I had poured in. Just after 1 p.m., my mother was the first to arrive. Wearing a bright pink dress and heels that didn't suit her age, she greeted me with a wide smile and a kiss on the cheek. "This is your favorite cheese, right?" she said, handing me a grocery store bag. I couldn't bring myself to place it next to the gourmet cheese in the fridge, but I simply said, "Thank you," without a word of protest. Next came my brother, his wife, and their 6-month-old son Lucas. Relatives soon followed one after another, and the living room quickly filled with chatter. Wrapped in a fluffy blanket and smelling of baby powder, Lucas drew more attention than anyone else I'd invited. "He's getting so big. Looks just like his dad. He's smiling, how adorable." The relatives surrounded him with squeals of delight, snapping pictures as if it were his birthday party. I smiled, but slowly, something inside me began to deflate. No one touched the food I had prepared as the Lucas photo shoot dragged on. Everyone held up their phones, shouting, "Look here." Or he just smiled again, as shutters clicked nonstop. From behind the kitchen counter, I silently watched the food grow cold. Once the excitement settled a bit, one of the relatives looked around and said, "Brittany, this house is absolutely gorgeous. That ocean view is incredible. The air even feels fresher out here." Another nodded in agreement. "It's like a little resort. Honestly, more relaxing than a hotel." I gave a polite smile and replied, "Thank you." That's when it happened. My mother raised her glass and casually said, "It really is lovely, isn't it? I bet if Jeffrey and Kristen lived here, it would be perfect for raising Lucas." The moment those words fell, the air grew tense. The once laughing relatives fell silent. I didn't miss that shift. I felt something quietly crack deep in my chest. When I didn't respond, keeping my smile frozen in place, my mother went on as if it were obvious. "I mean, Brittany, you're in your city apartment during the week, right? This place is basically sitting empty. And Lucas needs a bigger space. Our current place has so many stairs, it's dangerous for a baby." I stared into my glass of lemon water, swallowing my words. I told myself to stay calm. But something inside me was starting to tremble. "It's not a demand, more of a suggestion," Kristen added. "If you let us use this house, you could enjoy your time in the city without worry, and it would be a huge help to us. It's a win-win, don't you think? I'm not going to lend out this house." I spoke quietly, but clearly. The room froze. "How can you be so cold?" My mother raised her voice. "This place is way too big for one person. Don't you have any sense of helping your family?" "I thought I've already shown more than enough of that," I replied. "And now, after all this time, you show up and ask me to give up my cottage. Am I just some kind of convenient wallet to you?" I could feel the anger and sadness quietly boiling over inside me. Jeffrey, my brother, shrugged and laughed. "There she goes again. Brittany always makes it sound like she's the only one who's ever done anything. Just because she's managing Dad's inheritance, she thinks everything's her accomplishment. But we're family too, aren't we? And this family asks me, on my birthday, to give up my home? That shut everyone up." The only sound was Lucas crying, slicing through the heavy silence. My mother stepped closer, eyes wide, and whispered sharply, "You're only thinking about yourself. Do you really believe you'll find happiness by shutting out your family?" I didn't look away. "So I'm cold for not giving up my house? Have you forgotten how much I've already done for you? Honestly, if this is how you view everything, I don't think we're speaking the same language anymore." The moment those words left my mouth, something inside me shifted. After that argument with my mother and brother's family, the living room felt suffocating. The laughter had vanished. Everyone sat in awkward silence, avoiding each other's eyes. Unable to bear the tension, one relative after another grabbed their coats and left without a word. By 3 p.m., I was the only one left in the room. No one said, "That was a lovely party." And yet, I felt a quiet sense of satisfaction deep inside. While cleaning up, I noticed Lucas's blanket folded at the corner of the table. I picked it up, ran my fingers over its soft texture, then gently placed it in a basket. My birthday isn't something to be hijacked for someone else's convenience. Neither is this house, or my life. The front door closed with a final thud as the last relative left. What remained in the living room were stacks of paper plates, half-drunk glasses of wine, and the untouched lemon cake I had baked myself. "Of course," I murmured with a small laugh. I told myself I hadn't expected much, but somewhere deep down, I had hoped this year would be different. That hope was the most painful part. My relationship with my family has always been complicated, a history of compromises and countless sacrifices. My mother, Diane, once tried to build a warm home. But that changed a few years before my father passed, when her affair came to light. After that, he shut himself off emotionally, fell ill, and eventually left us forever. His will clearly stated, "No inheritance shall be left to my wife." I pitied her. I gave her one of my credit cards to help with daily expenses. I supported her. And then there's my brother Jeffrey. My mother always bragged that he graduated from a prestigious university, but the truth is, his business is failing. He barely scrapes by, supporting Kristen and their 6-month-old son. And yet, on social media, he poses as a successful entrepreneur and paints a picture-perfect family life. Their values and mine just don't align. Why should I be expected to share what I've worked so hard to build? There's a difference between offering support and enabling dependence. Inviting my mother and brother was my way of opening the door to reconnect after years of distance since Dad's dads. I stood in the kitchen and opened the fridge to grab a cold sparkling water. Just as I reached for a glass, the front door slammed open behind me. "I'm not done talking to you." It was my mother, standing in the doorway. Her face was flushed, eyes a little unfocused. She had probably been drinking a few leftover beers in the garden. "The party's over. You should go home," I said calmly. But she wasn't listening. "How far are you willing to go with this selfishness? Is this cottage that important to you? Do you even care about your family? I've told you this more than once. I bought this house with my own money, my own decision. And Dad's inheritance? He left you nothing. That was his, and now it's mine. If you still can't understand that, then there's nothing left to discuss." In that moment, her expression twisted. Without a word, she raised the beer can in her hand and deliberately tilted it over my head. "I didn't raise you to become someone like this." The cold liquid ran down my hair, over my neck. I stood frozen, speechless. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my father's photo on the wall tremble slightly. "Pathetic," I muttered. My mother snorted. "Say what you want, but your brother's family will be moving into this house. We're family. We have that right. You have until next month to get it ready." And with that, she flung open the front door and left. The stale mix of beer and her perfume lingered in the air, making the whole room feel sour. I stood there for a while, unable to move. My hair clung to my scalp, my t-shirt soaked and cold against my skin. There's no way she can do that. I won't let her. That was the thought running through my head as I went to grab a towel from the bathroom. On the way, my phone buzzed. Patty's name appeared on the screen, one of the few colleagues I truly trusted. "Happy birthday, Brittany. I'm sorry I couldn't make it today. Did something happen at the party?" Her voice was gentle, but what she said next hit me like a weight in my chest. "Your mom posted something on social media. It's spreading kind of fast. She's written some really harsh things about you. I thought you should know." For a moment it felt like the air had left my lungs. Without finding the words, I steadied my phone and, with trembling fingers, opened the social media app. The first thing that caught my eye was a post from my mother. All I wanted on my daughter's birthday was one small thing for her to let us live in her big house so my grandson could have space to grow. But all I got was a cold rejection. Maybe I failed as a mother. I set my phone on the table and took a deep breath. Now was not the time to react emotionally. I had to stay calm. If I responded, I'd only be cast as the heartless daughter again. I kept repeating that to myself. But things were already spiraling out of control. Like a wildfire, the post was attracting comment after comment from strangers. How can someone be so selfish toward their own family? Robbing a baby of his future, what a monster. Poor mother. No wonder the daughter turned out like that. My timeline was flooded with venom, faster than I could scroll. I just stood there, unable to move. Am I the villain? It wasn't anger I felt. It was something emptier. Like everything I was had been flattened into the cold daughter by people who didn't know me at all. It was so incredibly unfair, it made my chest tighten. I changed out of my soaked clothes and stepped into the shower. No matter how much I scrubbed, I couldn't wash away the feel of the beer, my mother's words, or the sting of that post. That night, after cleaning up, I sat on the sofa and stared at the photo of my dad. "Dad, I'm not wrong, right?" He smiled gently from the frame. That smile was the only thing that still gave me comfort. That's when I made a decision: no one would ever be allowed stain my life again. The next morning, I stared at myself in the mirror. Dark circles under my eyes, puffy eyelids. Even after washing my hair several times the night before, I could still swear I smelled the beer. "Why did it come to this?" I whispered. I never lived for anyone's approval. But I also knew if I stayed silent, I'd only become more of a scapegoat. My mother didn't stop. Even after the party, she continued her passive-aggressive attacks on social media. My daughter no longer sees me as her mother. I raised a woman with no compassion. She kept painting me as some heartless villain. She even resorted to using anonymous accounts to harass me. I was reaching my limit, emotionally and mentally. But I wasn't here to cry as a victim. And I couldn't let my life be hijacked under the excuse of family any longer. I called Thomas Gale. He was the attorney who had handled my father's estate. He specialized in family law, and I knew he would understand. "Hi, this is Brittany Hansen. I need your help." That afternoon, I visited his office. The moment he saw me, he seemed to understand. "I can tell by your face something serious happened, didn't it?" I recounted everything that had happened at the party, one incident at a time. The beer, the social media attacks, and most of all, how my brother Jeffrey and his wife Christine, supported by my mother, tried to take over my home like it was theirs. Thomas nodded, taking notes silently as I spoke. "You've endured more than enough already." Those words nearly brought me to tears. But I held them back. I wasn't here to cry. Not anymore. For the defamation and harassment, the first step is to gather evidence. Save every post and message. We can also file for a restraining order, he explained, calmly walking me through the steps. A few days later, a restraining order was issued against my mother through the court, and we also initiated a defamation claim for her online posts. Immediately afterward, I took the next step. I froze the restricted credit card I had given her. Ever since my father passed, I'd been supporting her with a limited monthly allowance. She used it freely, never thanked me, and simply expected it. There was no reason to keep giving. And finally, I made the biggest decision of all. The house my mother currently lives in, originally my father's, is legally co-owned by me and my brother, according to Dad's will. But for years she's occupied it as if it were hers. A few days later, with the documents Thomas had prepared, I finally sat down with my brother. We met at a cafe terrace, under a sun so bright it felt like it could burn. "Brittany, seriously, don't you think it's too cold-hearted to kick Mom out?" "Cold-hearted?" I repeated. "You do remember what she did to me, don't you? Pouring beer over my head on my birthday? Smearing my name all over social media? And now I'm supposed to stay silent about it just because we're family? But if you take the house from her, she won't have anywhere to go," he said. I paused for a moment before answering. "That's a consequence of her own choices. I wasn't born to take care of her. She disrespected Dad's will, and she used me. That house legally belongs to you and me. But she's treated it like her personal property for years. I've had enough." My brother stirred the ice in his glass for a moment, then let out a sigh. "All right, but there's one condition. At the very least, give her enough time to find a place to live." I understood, but that's not out of family duty. It's basic human decency. With that, the formal notice prepared by Thomas was delivered to my mother. It included the enforcement of the restraining order, a defamation warning, and an official request to vacate the house within 30 days. There was no reply. No call, no email. The only change was in her social media profile. This is what it said: "Even if my family abandons me, I will never lose my pride as a mother. One day, the truth will be known." She was portraying herself as the victim, as if I were some heartless daughter. No apology, no remorse. Only a performance and appeal to the public as the tragic, misunderstood mother. And still I didn't regret anything. If anything, I felt lighter. One evening, while sipping coffee on my cottage terrace, I got a message from Thomas. "You made the right decision. You've drawn a necessary boundary for the sake of your own life." I repeated those words silently to myself, again and again. When the day came for my mother to vacate the house, I chose not to be there. 3 days before the official deadline, my brother simply texted me. "Mom left?" That was all. I spent that day at the seaside cottage, picturing her walking away with boxes in her arms. I'd be lying if I said I didn't feel anything. But the cold beer, the insults on social media, and years of unspoken pressure, none of it shook my resolve. I had no idea where she went after that. My brother never contacted me again. And I didn't go looking. As autumn deepened, the sea outside my terrace grew darker, colder. Mornings called for thick cardigans, and at night I wrapped myself in a blanket, sipping tea. Life, quietly but surely, moved forward. Then one day, I got a message from a college friend. "Brittany, I heard something. Someone saw a woman who looked like your mom sleeping on a bench in the city park. It might be nothing, but I thought you should know." Something stirred in my chest. Even so, I turned my phone face down. Inside me, there was both a part that wanted to go see for myself, and another that insisted, there's no way that could be true. but neither feeling was strong enough to move my feet. A few days later, over lunch with Patty, I mentioned it in passing. They said Mom might be sleeping in a park. Patty set down her fork and looked me straight in the eye. "Brittany, this may feel like some sort of test, but it's not your responsibility. She made her choices. You don't owe her a return to that past." I nodded quietly. That night, I couldn't sleep. Eventually, I grabbed my keys and drove through the quiet roads toward the cottage. When I got there, I didn't even go inside. Instead, I walked straight to the beach. Under a sky too dark for city lights to reach, one image kept flashing in my mind. My mother's proud, almost defiant smile. A tightness gripped my chest at the thought, had I missed something behind that smile? I stopped walking, and standing in the freezing ocean breeze, I whispered into the night, "Am I being cruel?" The waves drowned out my voice, but somehow, the sound of them returning to shore felt like an answer, gentle, but undeniable. Still, I couldn't grasp what the answer was. Days passed. To distract myself from that spiral of unanswerable thoughts, I threw myself into work. As the year came to a close, the city lit up with laughter and Christmas lights. But I kept my distance. Instead, I decided to hold a small party just for myself. I decorated my apartment, made a modest meal, and baked a simple cake. Of course, I didn't invite anyone. I wasn't sure if my heart simply wasn't in it to be with someone, or if I just didn't have the courage to let anyone in. All I knew was it would be a party just for me. I played my favorite jazz, lit some candles, and placed my father's photo on the shelf in the living room. "Good job making it through the year, Brittany." I raised my wine glass and toasted to myself. If no one else would celebrate me, then I would. If no one else understands me, then I'll be my own strongest ally. Next to my father's photo, I placed a small white flower. If he could see this home, I know he'd say, "You did well." I could almost hear his warm voice deep inside my heart. That night, I slept soundly for the first time in what felt like forever. When I woke the next morning, winter sunlight was spilling gently through the curtain gap. The air was still crystal clear, as if the whole world were quietly blessing the choices I had made. Shortly after the new year, I received a message from my brother. "Vanessa gave birth yesterday. It's a girl. Both mother and baby are doing well." Reading those short lines, I felt nothing. Maybe in the past, my heart would have tightened, but not now. Softly, I whispered, "I see more to myself than anyone else." A few minutes later, another message came. Also about Mom. My hand froze on the phone. I could almost feel the familiar weight of silence stretching through the screen. After she left the house, she stayed with someone she knew for a while, but that didn't last. Apparently there were some issues. Now I've heard she's living near a church park. Apparently the church sometimes hands out food. I was speechless. Not surprised, exactly. I guess, deep down, I had already expected this. My mother's not the kind of person who can live off the kindness of others. She lives by her own rules. Always has. That's why I had to draw the line. Then came my brother's suggestion. "A lot has happened, but once things settle down, do you think we could talk again? Maybe it's too late, but I think Mom's sorry." I've been thinking about a lot, and I think I understand you a little better now. So, could we meet? Just once? I stared at the screen, sipping my coffee slowly. My answer was already clear. It just took me a little while to find the right words. Congratulations on the baby, but I'm not the person I used to be. What I've endured, how many times I was stepped on, you can't erase that with maybe it's time. I'm sorry, I'm not seeking reconciliation. I hit send and gently placed my phone face down on the table. Outside, the winter wind rustled through the trees, but inside, my heart remained calm. I no longer live to be forgiven. And forgiving others isn't my form of salvation. Realizing that I finally began to live my own life. I am no longer someone who's expected to offer parts of herself just because that's what family does. Being told to give up my cottage on my birthday, being criticized for refusing, attacked online, it took all of that for me to finally see the truth. True family doesn't demand your sacrifice. It's the kind of bond where just being present is enough to support one another. I set my phone aside and took another sip of coffee. Outside the window, the winter sea shimmered quietly. And in that moment, I was reminded again. This peace I fought to protect, that I chose, that I kept, was the most precious thing I had.